Haters gonna hate, man, and friend of the show, maybe not a friend of the show after this video, Legend of Winning, made this video called Jayson Tatum was never ready.
To give you an
Link to
idea
this video
of
in
just
the
how much
description,
Tatum
man.
has struggled offensively, he's 0 for 11 on jump shots so far this summer. When Tatum is struggling this much offensively, he just doesn't add as much value as the other guys who are more used to scaling their game down and playing off the catch, because he's not going to get the amount of touches he needs to find his momentum and his footing.
How is JT the odd man? No, that's
Just
what I
won a
don't
chip.
understand.
First team All NBA, maybe?
The disrespect that Steve Kerr has shown Jayson Tatum throughout this tournament makes me hate this team.
So let's talk about Jayson Tatum. As we all know, Team USA just won gold with the men's Olympic basketball. And instead of people going on and on about how great KD, Curry, LeBron was, how great Devin Booker fit his role, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo coming off the bench, Drew Holiday being a great addition, instead of talking about all that, of course, people want to roll in the mud of negativity and talk about how Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum weren't receiving the amount of minutes that they thought they were going to receive. Now, I must admit,
Stop it, bro. Curry, Brown, and KD have been glazed up over these last 3 weeks. Stop acting like we've all just been talking about Embiid and Tatum this whole time. Stop it.
I am guilty of this myself. I do love my fair share of toxic, nasty propaganda. However, I do believe a lot of the energy is being shifted in the wrong direction, or at least there is a lack of understanding of who these two players actually were. Now, to knock out Embiid just quickly, I do believe a lot of people started to contextualize his flaws as a player a lot more in these Olympic runs, and a lot of that just has to do with the fact that he has never really had the responsibility to complement this much talent around him throughout his career. So when he was out there trying to fit alongside Curry, KD, LeBron, and whoever else was on the floor with him, he looked a little bit out of place. He was slow-footed defensively, which kind of left him limited in defending in space, which is all of what a lot of the defense is overseas, especially in the Olympics. And then offensively, he was basically a clog. And I don't really mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very accurate depiction of who he is as a player. And again, I just think that has a lot to do with the fact that that's just who he has been throughout his entire career. He has never really played on a roster that has been overly talented. But a much bigger concern that
I ain't gonna lie, watching the Olympics, Embiid looked lost out there at times, bro. Like, it looked like a guy that did not know how to play with Steph Curry. And also offensively, the offense just didn't look as smooth, in my opinion, when Joel Embiid was out there. Specifically when they ran through him, it just felt like a lot of, hey, give Embiid the ball, get out the way, instead of the smooth ball movement that we saw when Anthony Davis was there, when Bam was there. Nevertheless, because Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid, he still had his moments. I believe it was against Serbia. He was going band for band against Jokic. But outside of that, though, Embiid looked kind of sus out there. He was still solid, though.
Everyone else had was Jayson Tatum, and why he wasn't receiving the minutes, the roles, the responsibilities that many people expected out of him entering this year. Now, let's get a little bit more of a backstory here. Jayson Tatum, unlike Embiid, he's on a team where early on in his career, they took the ball out of his hands, threw guards out there with Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, constantly kept ball handlers around him to kind of help him initiate offense. So moving off ball is something that he's pretty consistent with. Also, the Olympic style of basketball, where it's a lot of running zone or switching, three-point shooting, dribble drive, kick out. That's a style of play that the Boston Celtics have thrived in over the past couple of years. And so it seemed like a very seamless transition for him with the Olympics. But more importantly, in his prime, potentially peak of his powers, first team All NBA, just got done with a championship run in a team that just lost Kawhi Leonard at the beginning of the run. It seemed as if like it was going to be a natural move to move him into that role and responsibility, regardless of what that was going to look like for Kawhi moving forward on this roster. But no, instead, Team USA decided to have their starting five consist of a 3-guard lineup of Curry, Booker, and Drew Holiday, and that was fairly consistent for most of this run. The last game against France, they took out Drew Holiday and put out KD, which again, you would assume is supposed to be Jayson Tatum's role. And there were even games where Tatum's minutes were very inconsistent, wavered all throughout the Olympic run. But I do believe the eyebrows really started to raise when he received DNPs. Yes, someone who was one of the best players in the NBA, fit the role perfectly in what you would assume this team would need, receiving DNPs in the Olympics, as Tatum did not play in both of the Serbia games, and the criticism towards the coaching staff really hit new heights in that last Serbia game in the semifinals, because USA found themselves down 17 early, and Steve Kerr and the rest of the coaching staff still decided to not play him no matter how many points USA went down. Now, to conclude,
one of my biggest problems with this whole situation is just Steve Kerr lying about why he's not playing Jayson Tatum, in my opinion. Because after the first DNP, he flat out said, yo, I felt dumb not playing JT. Not going to do that again. You know, I just put out lineups that made sense. And to be honest with you, I gave him leeway that game because of the fact that I believe a majority of the game was a blowout. You know, we're going to the second half, third quarter, game put away. Let's just go with what works. As we move along, though, he doesn't get played when the game's close. He doesn't get played when the blowout is in favor of USA. He doesn't get played when the blowout is against USA. So at that point, Steve Kerr, stop lying. He's just not in the rotation. He's just not in the rotation for whatever reason.
The story, it came out to be a fairy tale ending because USA came back from the 17-point deficit against Serbia, won that game in the semifinals, and went on to France and beat France. And even in that game, in the finals, you know, Jayson Tatum received some minutes. Not much, only 11, but he still received some minutes. But of course, this kind of begs the question, why exactly did Jayson Tatum not play? And this has been an ongoing conversation for quite some time now over the past couple of weeks, because not only do we have the Jayson Tatum conundrum, but also why wasn't Jaylen Brown introduced into the team once Kawhi Leonard dropped out? I don't know if Kawhi really dropped out. I think the Clippers forced him out, but you know, Kawhi is no longer here. Jaylen Brown seems like a natural replacement for him because he is a wing, a big body, versatile defender player. Why wasn't he being replaced by him as well? And of course, a bunch of conspiracy theories. Oh my God, Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, Ty Lue, all these other coaches, head coaches for opposing teams, they just want to tear the Celtics up. That's the reason why they playing Drew Holiday and Derek White. They just want to rip it all apart. They're just playing mind games. Y'all just don't understand. And also, Jaylen Brown against Nike, duh. Come on, dog. You're not reading between the lines. Now, personally, I do think a lot of that is a load of BS.
Come on, bro. Read between the lines, Lo! Come on, we're better than this. Now, on a serious note, though, the Jaylen Brown thing really did confuse me because Team USA had a chance to build the team that they wanted. And within the team that they wanted, they picked Kawhi for whatever reason. And then it came out, I believe, a couple days ago that in terms of replacing Kawhi, Paolo was one of the front runners in terms of replacing Kawhi. I'm assuming Jaylen Brown was in that discussion as well, and then they went Derek White. So my biggest question is if Kawhi didn't get injured, what was the plan? What would have been the plan all along? Would they have still ran triple guard with Kawhi on the lineup? Would the lineups have changed?
To be fair, I do believe that Jayson Tatum also should have played in that Serbia game in the semifinals because the defensive scheme that we employed in the fourth quarter to slow down Serbia to 15 points, my goodness, we were dominating defensively, is a defensive scheme that Jayson Tatum would flourish in. Like literally using KD as a POA defender, very switchable, being able to defend bigs from time to time. That is effectively who Jayson Tatum was in the finals. So defensively, it actually made a lot of sense to play Jayson Tatum. But I don't really think the problem between Tatum and Brown, for that matter, is defense. It's the offensive side. And this is an ongoing problem that I have been trying to convey to people for literally 4 months now. And I don't know why people don't want to hear it. I actually made a video about it on this channel. Even in the video, people were like, oh my God, look, you're just hating. Oh my God, why do you just hate so much. Like y'all just sit here and believe that I'm hating. Y'all sit here and believe that Steve Kerr was hating. Y'all just don't want to acknowledge the fact that Jayson Tatum is a heavily flawed player and benefited immensely from being on a team that was ultra talented. And I do not believe that he should be given anything whatsoever. He should not inherit a starting role or major minutes on a roster that he does not best suit or best fit the needs of the team because the brother cannot shoot. His jump shot has fallen off the face of the earth and you all don't want to admit it.
His jump shot has been really bad. Got me there, never really denied it, but ever since the playoffs, man, his jump shot, I've been waiting every single round. Nah, this the round he gonna find it. Nah, this the round he gonna find it. He just never found it. Nope, he just never found it. He excelled in other areas of the game, so I'll give it to him, but still had his moments, was very impactful. Can't say he played bad, but when it comes to his jump shooting specifically, Drew Hanlon, what have you done? Drew Hanlon, what have you done? Fix his jump shot. Drew, JT, take a 2-week break after the Olympics. It's time to get back into the lab, and it's time to start from scratch, from square one. Your jump shot is broke. It's broke.
That's the problem. That's really the problem. Steve Kerr also talked about this, is before I bust out the numbers. Steve Kerr talked about this as well, about how it's a math problem and how just from what Kevin Durant had produced as soon as he stepped in, it's really hard for him to find minutes for Tatum on the floor. Again, I think DMPs are a bit excessive, but Tatum was never, ever going to receive any major minutes on his team if he could not make a jump shot. And I didn't want to put this on the timeline. I didn't want to make a video about it because I didn't want to come across as the hater, but over the past 2 weeks, I just keep hearing people just crying about why Jayson Tatum, for whatever reason, they just think he's supposed to. It is his to have. It's his team, his roster, his starting position. He's supposed to play major minutes on his team. But the truth of the matter is, bro, he got multiple opportunities to prove to everyone in the showcase games where he was supposed to be in the hierarchy of the talent in the NBA, and he failed to do so. A lot of that continued over in the Olympic Games. And for people out there going to sit here and say, oh, it's because his confidence is shattered and oh, they were giving enough minutes. No. This brother has not been able to make a shot since the beginning of the playoffs. And y'all have just been in denial about it. But let's get the facts straight. Jayson Tatum, for those who do not know, didn't make a single three-pointer in any of these games, Olympic and showcase. And again, for people that are in denial about it. But let's get the facts straight. Jayson Tatum, for those who do not know, didn't make a single
He took 4 threes.
three-pointer in any of these games, Olympic and showcase. And again, for people out there going to sit there and say, oh, Steve Kerr, he knew what he was doing. He shot his confidence. He shot it, his whole confidence going now. It's Steve Kerr's fault. Well, it's Steve Kerr's fault that in the playoffs,
0 for 4 out of the games that they played. That sounded like he just took 1 3 and missed it in a short amount of time. Even if he went 0 unless he had a game where he went 0 for 3, fine, but maybe I need to look back at the box scores. 0 for 4 over the course of these games? That's like 0-1 here, 0-1 here, 0-2 here. Come on, bruh.
69% in the restricted area. Okay. 32% in the paint non-restricted area. Yikes. 37% on mid-range jump shots. Yikes. 0 for 9 on left corner threes. Yikes. 1 for 2 on right corner threes. Okay. And 30% on above the break threes. Yikes. There is nowhere on the floor outside of a right corner three where he's made 1 of 2. But realistically speaking, there was nowhere on the floor throughout the entire playoffs where Jayson Tatum shot above 40% from the field outside of the restricted area. They ain't got nothing to do with his confidence. They ain't got nothing to do with, oh, he's not in the rotation. He needed a better feel. Starter for the Boston Celtics in his run. Got major minutes for the Boston Celtics in his run. Practically took many shots he wanted to for the Boston Celtics in that run. And that's what he shot from the field. Jump shot was gone. And so when you watch the games themselves, especially against Serbia, bro, they were running a zone against us. Bam, got ignored. Corner three, top of the key, because they knew not to defend him. In Olympic basketball, bigs can just camp in the paint. Bigs don't have to step out. They don't have to defend.
My biggest thing is because I agree that his jump shot fell off, but the way Team USA was utilizing him with his jump shot falling off also did not benefit him. And now we're retroactively looking back and saying, oh, but he didn't do anything. Bro, I swear to God, I watched the France game, second half when they put him in for like 4 to 5 minutes. And I don't think this is just Jayson Tatum throwing a fucking tantrum. I genuinely think this was the game plan. They just sent him straight to the corner, straight to the left corner every time. He played defense, go straight to the left corner like he's fucking PJ Tucker. A guy who's having shooting woes, I personally don't think that's the best way to utilize him. Now, mind you, at this point in the game, I don't think KD was going off, and Ant has... He was struggling those last 2 games. So just thinking about it, KD being the shooter that he is, Ant being the shooter that he is compared to Jayson Tatum, and the only thing Jayson Tatum got right now is his on-ball playmaking, is his ability to attack the rim, make people collapse, and his knowledge to kick out. I personally would have thought, at the very least in those minutes, run a fucking play for Jayson Tatum to get the ball in his hands and make something work. But I felt like throughout these Olympics, there was never a play ran for JT. There just never was. He was playing roamer the whole time. He was getting putbacks when he could. He was leaking out when he could. But in terms of proper plays being ran for JT, it could be as simple as like a back screen or something. That was never ran. Never ran. I think Jayson Tatum's role off the bench was a playmaking wing. And looking at what their second unit looked like, that's exactly what they needed off the bench. But when you bring him in and don't allow him to play make at all, when you bring him in as PJ Tucker, What do you expect him to do when there is actually a role that he can fulfill?
You. And so you have someone on the floor that is a non-floor spacer. That's a problem. It's a major problem. And it's actually a huge reason why Devin Booker was the one who was actually closing out games, because if we're being honest with ourselves, the role that D-Book had played, especially in these last 2 games where he was closing out, that was supposed to be Tatum. Tatum was supposed to be out there in big moments, stepping up, knocking down shots. But he couldn't do that because he literally wasn't knocking down any jump shots. Like literally. And then you have the other problem with JT offensively, and that is Tatum's not a ball handler. He's not a decision maker. He's not someone that you can rely on to dribble drive, defense collapse, the floor shrinks on him because of the zone, and he makes the read. And we know this is because...
Okay, listen, I've agreed with a decent amount of things that you've said in this video, but I am not letting you get away with saying Jayson Tatum is not a guy that can put the ball on the floor and play make and kick out. No. Not after the playoffs we just watched. 2-3 years ago, that was genuinely a problem for JT. If there is one thing Jayson Tatum has improved on in this last year, it is his playmaking ability. It is his ability to read defenses and make the right reads at a pretty fast pace too. Like, he's not making these reads late. No, none of that. At this point, you're saying his jump shot is broke. At this point, you're saying he can't put the ball on the floor. He can't play make. He can't do nothing. And at that point, the way you're describing him right now, that's not a top 30 player in the league, bro.
We saw him struggle, not only against France, because I saw him do it like once or twice, but he was struggling to do that all throughout the Olympics, all throughout the showcase games, all throughout the playoffs. And that's been a play of him. That's been a fault of him for a good portion of his career. Now, when you're on a Boston Celtics team where they space out the floor at practically every position, you don't have to worry that much about opposing teams shrinking the floor on you. But the truth of the matter is, if we're being honest with ourselves, there's a reason why Tatum wasn't playing. I do believe he should have at least received some minutes in that third quarter against Serbia, when it was very clear that Anthony Edwards also didn't look great out there. And for defensive purposes, it just would have made sense to put Tatum out.
Let me make it clear. My biggest gripe with these Olympics is not the fact that JT started. I am honestly fine with JT coming off the bench. Me personally, though, knowing how truly stacked this Team USA roster is, my starting lineup would have been Steph Curry. It would have been, I believe, Anthony Edwards. No. It would have been KD at the 2, LeBron at the 3, JT at the 4, and Embiid at the 5 or AD at the 5, depending on how you want to roll. Because me personally, I understand that when you look at that lineup, spacing is not as optimal, especially compared to the actual lineup that they rolled out. But when you do have LeBron James, when you do have Steph Curry, when you do have Kevin Durant, who are all-time great playmakers, some of the greatest playmakers we've ever seen, Steph Curry and KD being 2 of the top 5 shooters I've ever seen, and Embiid, who is a guy who can pick and pop, who shot 38% from 3 last season, I don't think spacing is that much of a problem in that starting lineup. And there is enough on-ball playmaking on that team for Team USA to still win gold. And then we go home and we're not talking about all of these different things that we're talking about now. Derek White gets barely any minutes, but it's because, hey, Derek White was a last-minute injury replacement, and everything would have been fine and dandy. I did not think a triple guard lineup was worth having whatsoever. I don't think it was necessary. I think it was Steve Kerr just trying to be different. Small ball lineups win. I'm trying to be ahead of the curve, Steve Kerr. That's why he did that. And then the backups would have been pretty simple to figure out. Drew would have backed up Steph. Devin Booker and Ant would have backed up at the wing positions. At the power forward position, it would have been Bam. And at the 5, it would have been Embiid or AD, depending on who you wanted to start. It would have been easy. We still would have got gold. And none of these conversations would have even ever existed. But nevertheless, even if you don't want to go with that starting lineup, I personally felt as if Jayson Tatum still should have been in the rotation. Just in the rotation. I think especially in those last 2 games when Ant wasn't figuring it out, Jayson Tatum should have came in there and had not only his minutes, but also his touches. And generally speaking, I just want him to be more involved in the offense. Not just a corner sitter And then when he misses his one spot up three, now it's, take him out the game. I mean, run a couple sets for him. Fuck it. I don't think he's that bad, especially in games when it's already a blowout going one direction, when they're trying something new. Run a set for him. Fuck it.
But I think that people believing that he's entitled to receiving these minutes, that he's entitled to receiving a starting position, that he's entitled with anything, doesn't make any sense to me. And I find it very odd that like people like just chanting, oh my God, give him a spot. Like why? Because things that he did in the NBA that he has not been able to do in the Olympics. Matter of fact, there's things in the NBA that he wasn't able to do that still carried over to the Olympics, and we need him for those things. Floor is shrunk. They play zone. You need to be able to shoot out of it. Tatum can't shoot right now. And everything I just said about Tatum is applicable to Jaylen Brown as well. It's a huge reason why he was not there. And I believe it's a bigger reason why I do not buy in this idea that because they won a championship, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are players that you all keep trying to make them to be. They're not.
Can we define what that means? He's not the player that you think he is for both Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. Because I swear to God, ever since the finals, I've heard this talking point a lot from a lot of people. And at this point, I swear to God, you're just making shit up. Unless you're a diehard Jayson Tatum fan, one of those that have his jersey on your wall. Unless you're an extremely delusional Jayson Tatum fan who thinks he's like the best in the world. I get it. Yeah, he is not the player who you think he is. But I feel like personally, a vast majority of the NBA community views Jayson Tatum as a top 5 to top 11 player. And when I say top 5, I'm not talking about the top, I'm talking about 5. Like at most 5. And I feel like most people don't even have him at that 5 spot. The majority of the list that I see, JT is at like 7 or 8. He's still maybe at 10. With Jaylen Brown, listen, I get it. People were trying to push the narrative that he's the best player on the team, but I don't think that really has anything to do with the hierarchy of the NBA, though. Like, I swear to God, I've seen so many posts talking about Jayson Tatum is the only guy who won a championship and his legacy got worse. I swear to God, I've seen so many people trying to clown on Jayson Tatum and his efficiency over these last playoffs, as opposed to people who are like legitimately gassing it up and moving him up his rankings. Unless you're trying to say that he's legitimately not a top 15 player anymore after this run, like he's top 20, top 30, then at that point, shaboing boing, get his dick out your mouth, bro.
I don't think that Steve Kerr is a perfect coach. Same with Eric Spoelstra, same with Ty Lue. I don't think that they are. I think that they all make mistakes. They all have a bit of issues with some of their rotations throughout this Olympic run. Some of the offensive scheming was also very, very questionable early on. And some of the defensive rotations also in that Serbia game didn't make any sense in that first half at all. But I don't think that they're stupid, though, especially in particular, when it comes to the JT minutes. I think they're being very rational, very real, and everybody in the community is just crying about Tatum receiving minutes, but the truth of the matter is there's a reason why, and you all don't want to admit it, and it's just simply because what role was he going to play on this roster? If you cannot dribble, drive, and a kick out, initiate offense, table set offense, and effectively, you need to be a floor spacer. Tatum isn't that, especially with the second unit.
That's what I'm saying, though, and that's where we disagree. I genuinely think he can. He just never got the proper touches to even show that case off, in my opinion. Did he get the proper minutes? Sure. But to show off that part of his game, I think he was playing roamer. I think he was crashing out on the glass. He was playing 4 the whole time. They did want him to spot up and shoot, but I don't think he ever got the playmaking minutes, the playmaking touches that he deserved to show that part of his offense, truly, even if his jump shot was off.
That was going to feature Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo. I'm going to put another non-floor spacer? Like, what are we doing right now? And so as great as Tatum is as a player, and no one is taking anything away from Tatum, but it's just the reality that many of you all have been ignoring because they won a championship. And this is this thing when it comes to winning bias where your whole perception on a player just changes just because they were fortunate enough to be on a really great team. Not to say that they didn't contribute to that winning. Absolutely not, because Tatum did. But them winning doesn't remove their flaws. Tatum still shot poorly, couldn't hit a shot. That's a reality that you have to accept. And looking at those numbers, not just in the Olympics, not just in the showcase games, but also in the playoffs, hopefully we can all come to the conclusion that Tatum isn't as good as you all try to make him out to be. So to Tatum, congratulations, you won a gold medal, same.
Or his jump shot was just off. God damn. Okay.
Year you won a championship.
That was
same
your whole
year,
point.
You was first
Jump
team
shot was just
All-NBA.
off.
And
Fuck.
to be quite frank with you, I hope you continue with your success because as an American, I would love to see you play better because in 4 more years, my brother, if you keep this...
Nah. Stay on that side, legend. Stay on that side. Stay on that side, man. Nah, you don't want to see him succeed. Stop. Hey, man, legend. Laker fan legend. You don't want to see him succeed. Stop it.
This up.
Stop
I don't know
it.
where
Stop
you fit
it.
in the hierarchy of NBA greatness. I would love to see more greatness out of you. And I don't believe that this is who you are as a player. I don't think that this is your ceiling. I think that there is still room to grow. But also, I'm not going to pat you on the back. I'm not going to sit here and just yes man you. I'm not going to sit here and stroke your ego because your team was great enough to win a championship despite the fact that you couldn't hit anything outside of the restricted area. I'm not going to do it. Get your jump shot back, become a better passer, playmaker, reader of defenses, decision maker, and we can have a conversation. But bro, until then, bro, y'all gotta stop. Y'all have to stop. Got this man's mother on the timeline talking about, oh, he not injured. I don't know. It looked like he is, the way he's shooting the ball. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think I'm hating on Tatum or do you think I'm just speaking?
Come on, bro. That last part, come on, bro. Come on.
Speaking the truth.
Legend was hating. Legend was hating. I ain't never heard him this passionate about a topic in a minute, too. He sounded happy making this video. You thrive on hating this, Legend.